Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Good, good. I am Susan Bradford. I'm the executive director of the Lincoln Theater, newly appointed, so I'm kind of happy about that. I want to welcome you to the 11th community conversation here at the Lincoln Theater, birthed some maybe 5 years ago, with the purpose of bringing the community together to have dialogue on various topics, some topics that step on toes, but topics that are concerns of ours here, I'm certain in our community, and then of course in our world. So I want to welcome you to Community Conversations, the African Diaspora in Dance. We have a stellar panel for you here today, and we come from different genres of that. But we want to welcome you back. Our last conversation in November was about the Harlem Renaissance and its 100th celebration and its impact here in Columbus. So the Lincoln, along with other organizations, celebrated that 100th year of the Harlem Renaissance, and the Lincoln Theater produced its first production musical called The Renaissance Magic. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So as we've grown, we are in our 10th year of serving the community and providing mission-driven programs here in the community. We made some internal and external changes, and we're on our way to be in a very nostalgic but innovative future that we're creating here. So your presence here tonight lets us know that we have preserved and served the community well. So like you, we look forward to the next 10 years. But at this time, I would just like to acknowledge our board members, if they're here, along with our chair. I also want to inform you tonight that we'll be recorded by the Columbus TV, so you'll be on Columbus TV Channel 3. We also want to thank our photographer, Terry Gilliam, and our videographer in-house, Full Ray Productions. So we ask that you check into your social media right now. Let everybody know where you are, and then we would ask that you silence your devices. So in the spirit of our mission, we have assembled a stellar panel, and that we'll introduce you to them later on in the show, in the program. But at this time, I would like to share with you that we're going to bring Tapestry Performing Arts Company. Under the direction of Lori Wallace, we'll open up our conversation. The performance will be followed by my co-chair, Dr. Jack Marchbanks, and he will set the atmosphere to tonight's conversation with a multimedia presentation, and then we'll go into our conversation. So enjoy. And this is a participatory conversation. So we want to engage, we want to make comments, we want to ask questions. And so that we have a full conversation. We can leave here with some points and some aha moments, and I didn't know, and I've been enhanced, and my knowledge base has increased, and I've met someone that I didn't know who have a passion for dance just like you and I and the arts, okay? So Lori Wallace, Tapestry Performing Arts Company. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Hey, glad to be here. Wanted to thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Jack Marchbanks. It's my pleasure and privilege to be a member of the Lincoln Theater Board of Trustees. This marks the 11th, as Susan mentioned, the 11th community conversation we've had. We started doing community conversations back in March of 2014, March 26, 2014. That first community conversation was called From Jazz to Hip Hop, Every Generation Has Its Own Music. I know I was there. And it's been 5 years. And we've been doing these community conversations with the benefit of ongoing and generous support from Donna and Larry James. So I'd like for you to join me in thanking them, please. We've done, this is our 11th, but this is the very first that we've done that focuses on dance, which is a universal form of artistic expression, just like music. And in this case, it's more than ironic. It's downright poetic that here on the last Thursday of Women's History Month, we have an opportunity to acknowledge, to recognize the two African-American patriarchs of modern dance. We're talking about Pearl Primus and Katherine Dunham. Katherine Dunham was born in 1909. 10 years later, in 1919, Pearl Primus was born. Pearl Primus from Trinidad, Katherine Dunham from Chicago. But they both had an interest, a deep, abiding interest in anthropology, in history, in knowing their African culture, particularly as it came to dance. Pearl Primus went on to earn a PhD from Columbia University in African and Caribbean Studies. She mentored Alvin Ailey. She also taught a young Maya Angelou the method of African dance. She also introduced America, the Western Hemisphere, to the fanga, one of the most recognizable forms of African dance drawn from West Africa. A dance move I will not attempt to demonstrate to you tonight with my arthritic knees, but it's a dance of welcome. And Pearl Primus also, as you know, some of you may have seen in the video if you got here early, Pearl Primus did a groundbreaking bit of modern dance in 1943, dancing to the song Strange Fruit, of course, which was performed and first recorded by Billie Holiday in 1939. She performed modern dance, creating it, and she did this particular performance to the actual sound of an African-American male being lynched. So it was a powerful, powerful piece. Even more remarkable is Katherine Dunham. I am blessed and fortunate to have seen Katherine Dunham, and she was still dancing in 1987 in Atlanta, leading her troupe. And I got to see Katherine Dunham at the Black Arts Festival in Atlanta in 1987, 88. So these are two matriarchs. One thing about Katherine Dunham, she had a lifelong quest. She lived to 95. She passed away in 2006, just a month or so short of her 96th birthday. And she had this great desire to distance African Americans from the demeaning stereotypes of Negro dance, you know, the cakewalk, the shimmy, the shake dancing. She wanted to connect African Americans to the power and beauty of their ancestral dance forms drawn from her studies in the Caribbean islands and from Africa. But you know, to appreciate dance, you have to see it. So I'm going to step aside here and let you see a video that shows you some of the Afro-Caribbean dance moves that became sort of a craze. You know, Harry Belafonte became a star in the 50s for a reason. Everybody was into the Caribbean thing, where the West Indies were so popular. And Katherine Dunham is part of the reason. She popularized Afro-Caribbean dance as it came out of the West Indies. So what you're going to see here are a couple of videos that showcase Katherine Dunham performing in Britain, and you'll recognize the second person.
The rhythm of West Indies Creole music is heard in England for the first time since 1948 as the Katherine Dunham Company of Dancers stages a Negro ballet. Based on Martinique ritual dances, it tells of how tragedy invaded an evening of gaiety and how the evil spell of the zombies was used to part from her lover, La Luce, played by Katherine Dunham. The spell is broken as her lover intervenes to rescue La Luce from the powers of evil. The climax comes with the celebrated Agia, the fighting dance of Martinique.
The bongos bongoing, the drums drumming, and the maracas maracking as we get going with Miss Calypso herself, Maya Angelou.
Behind the door, the cops grabbed Mo, and as Joe ran out, Brother Mo, he began to shout, "Run, Joe! Hey, the man's at the door, run, Joe! The man, he won't let me go, run, Joe! Run, Joe, as fast as you can, run, Joe! This police holding me hand."
Oh, my goodness. My Lord.
Thank you, Dr. Jack Marchbanks. So at this time, we're going to bring our panelists up. Our panelist this evening is a spectrum of genres and perspectives as dance in varied areas of academia, social advocacy, technique, traditional and contemporary training, and performances. Our first is Kiana Simpson. Happy Feet is what she's known as. It's a constant tapping of toes, a steady bouncing of your legs as you try to contain the constant beat that is playing in your heart. It's passion. For Kiana, it has always been in her. It's her soul's desire. Since returning home from college in 2006, Kiana has been a member of the Thiossane West African Dance Institute, where she's the principal dancer. Awarded the honor of being a resident arts group at the Lincoln Theater, Kiana has been dancing on her stage through the lobby and all over the ballroom floor. And since the doors have reopened. Since graduating, milestones in Kiana's careers since the Lincoln has offered her an opportunity to partner with the Ohio State University's Ohio Jazz Lab to perform a Renaissance-themed show, and she was able to restage her choreography she created for the Renaissance Magic produced by the Lincoln Theater. As melodies continue to give her reasons to dance, it leads her to a stage where she can focus on putting her lessons to good use by turning her love and passion for dance into a small business, which will allow her to give back to her community, express her passion, and share her joy. Kiana Simpson. Seth Wilson is the new artistic director of the Columbus Dance Theater. He started dancing and training at the age of 4 under the late Stanley Bates in Queens, New York. He is a native of Queens. Seth continued his training throughout New York at many institutions, such as the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater and the Dance Theatre of Harlem and Ballet Hispanico. He also trained at LaGuardia High School for the Performing Arts and later attended Purchase College State University in New York City. Seth has toured internationally in Germany, Costa Rica, Bermuda, as well as within the United States. He has performed with Dance Theatre of Harlem's Dancing through Barriers Ensemble, Alvin Ailey, New York Theater Ballet, the Opus Dance Theater, and the Viewpoint Dance. Seth has been a guest artist with Fred Benjamin, Creative Outlets with Jamal Gaines, and his dance for the Lincoln Center Outdoors under the Earl Mosley. Recently, Seth has performed with the Genosphere Dance Company, and the company debuted in Santa Barbara, California. We welcome Seth Wilson. Professor Susan Hadley was a principal dancer with the Mark Morris Dance Group, with whom she performed numerous original roles in work such as Allegra, Dido and Aeneas, and the mythologies. She was a member of the Senta Drivers Company, Harry, and she performed with the Meredith Monk. As rehearsal director for the Mark Morris, she worked with Baryshnikov's White Oak Dance Project, with Zivali's premiere of The Office, and with the Royal Opera's production of Platy. Her own work has been performed by Hubbard Street Dance of Chicago, Repertory Dance Theater, the American Repertoire Ballet, Ballet Met Columbus, Ballet Memphis, and Ballet Pacifica, the University Dance Company Catco, and the Drums Downtown. Hadley's work has been supported by the National Endowment of the Arts, the New York Foundation of the Arts, the New York Council of the Arts, the Chu Sang-gu Foundation, the Ohio Arts Council, and the Greater Columbus Arts Council, as well as the OSU College of Arts and the Wexner Center for the Arts. Hadley teaches contemporary technique, composition, music, and choreography, repertoire, and pedagogy. She is the recipient of the 2002 College of Arts and Science Outstanding Teachers Award and the 2006 OSU Alumni Award for Distinguished Teaching and the 2014 Ratner Award for Distinguished Teaching. Professor Susan Hadley. Okay, you guys can pull those mics over to you. Great. You comfortable? Okay, I'll start with Kiana Simpson.
Yay.
Kiana, with your African-based training and your experiences in other art forms, can you tell us how your African-based training has merged you into other forms, and what are you doing with that, and how do you merge those two?
My African-based training, or my roots, as I call it, really I mean, I think I always loved to dance, and I probably would have done just about anything anybody gave me or told me to do. But African dance specifically kind of resonated with me in the sharing of energy because the drummers are live, the music is live. And so I think with that, I didn't really realize it at the time, but a lot of things that I did as I got older in my dance, going to Norfolk State University, I was on the dance line there. I absolutely loved dancing with the band, and I think, again, it was the live music and just kind of sharing the energy back and forth. And I also, did some local work, I guess, if you will, just getting my foot through the door. So my dancing has taken me to, open up for Name Stars. I danced backup for Blackstreet. I danced openings for like Ludacris and P. Diddy even, which was absolutely amazing. But again, some of those it was the live music that really kind of caught me to it. I think that allowed me to kind of open up to other forms of dance. I think at first I was just going to do African dance, but by way of that and doing that, had to then go dive into hip hop and jazz and all of that. So I guess for me, my roots really kind of pushed me to open up into other areas of dance, just because I feel like sometimes African dance is so separated, if you will. And I realized that while I love dance infinity and beyond, African dance, while it may be my roots and while it may be my base, to really know dance and to really have the self-expression that I want to be able to give off when I'm dancing, it would be, I would be remiss if I didn't try the others, right? So it's kind of carried me into, again, my jazz and my hip hop and all of that stuff. So
just a world dancer, huh? Yes. Seth, if I could ask you about your contemporary studies and your ballet training, where has that taken you?
Well, I started dancing when I was 4, and at first it was tap dance, and the studio I went to, I was doing tap because I would go with my mother, and then that owner passed away, and I went to another studio in Queens called Bernice Johnson. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with that, but it was a big studio in Queens where a lot of famous black dancers came from, especially like between the 70s and 90s, early 2000s. And when I went there, first I just wanted to do tap, but I was forced to do everything, including African, jazz, ballet, modern, everything. And I fell in love with ballet, and from there, I went to LaGuardia High School, which is the famed school in New York. And also being a guy doing ballet, it was a rarity at the time. Times are changing, but with that, it just took me all over, like being in New York, being able to go to different dance institutions and receive a scholarship. One, because I'm a guy, that was a big thing then. It enabled me to, like you said in my bio, tour the world for free and get a lot of awesome training, meet a lot of great people along the way. And the dance world is small, especially in New York, especially in the African American community, and it's pretty tight, and just a lot of institutions there. And I've been to many institutions, but being at Dance Theatre of Harlem, you felt like just a dancer, like not like a black dancer or, like that. So that was awesome. I think my early training at Bernice Johnson's and doing African and tap and having all of that versatility now with the contemporary allows you to choreograph and move differently in all of those techniques that you pick up along the way.
Thank you, Seth.
Thanks.
Suzanne, just tell us a little bit about your journey, your history on some of the pieces that you were able to be a part of in New York. I got a little winded, kept saying New York and New York and New York. So tell us a little bit about that part. I think most people here in Columbus know your work here, but maybe how'd you get to Ohio State?
Well, dancing was something I took as a young girl, I think, to get better posture. Like it was nothing you would ever do for a living. It was another thing. It was a hobby, like playing the guitar and, you know, running around. I mean, it really wasn't something you would ever consider doing for a living. So I went to college attempting to major in biology and be a doctor or something like this. Dancing kept sort of biting me, and I think there's a lot of people in the arts who were headed elsewhere, and then dance grabbed them. And so that was certainly the case for me. So I really came to dance late, I suppose, though I was dancing since I was a little kid. Anyway, so to me, it was, I also went to high school before Title IX money for girls' athletics. Remember? Yes. And I think that modern dance found, I was very musical, sang a lot, and I think modern dance was this intersection of athletics and music for me. And it allowed me to sort of be the musical athlete that I wasn't allowed to be because there was no team for that, or frankly for any girls' athletics in my high school, et cetera. So it was a more circuitous route for me. But so anyway, I got to New York and I did a bunch of stuff, which she read to you, so that's good. But what I really... And interestingly, after I left Mark Morris's dance company, I continued to rehearsal direct some operas for him because I knew music so well. So in opera, like the cues, the stage cues are run from score. They're not run from when the dancer shows up. It's like on, measure 387, the chaise comes in. And if the soprano's on it, fine. If not, so what? So, I was hired back to do a lot of to do a lot of directing for opera because of this confluence of knowing music so well. You never know sort of what the combination of your skills, where it's going to lead you. And but what I wanted to say about training, because my training was also very eclectic, even though I'm a different generation, is, we're really seeing that it's eclectic training that is the making of dancers today, and frankly, even in my generation. Mm-hmm. And so it's this combination of dance forms that are derived from more white European traditions and Black, West African, and US traditions that are essential, that were essential in your development, and frankly in mine too. I trained extensively in jazz, West African, tap, modern, ballet. And so, I'm talking to my students back there. I mean, it really, we're seeing this, that it is this broad physical training that is critical, I think, for our dancers.
Right. Thank you. We know that the videos that Jack shared with us, of course, with our pioneers, Katherine Dunham, Pearl Primus, and moving through Judith Jamison and Misty Copeland, we find that dance is our outlet. We find that we can really have a self-expression, community expression, and also a worldly expression with that. So my question to you now is, how do you use dance for social advocacy?
So for me, dance, I mean, dance is my, as anybody would tell you, most people who do dance or some type of artistic something, it's your outlet, right? It's your form. But it truly is my voice for me. I mean, when I get on stage, I turn on, it's like another person, right? I'm like, ah! But generally speaking, in normal day-to-day, I observe way more than I actually speak. And I just kind of like to soak in what everybody else is saying, if you will, and I don't really voice too much. And it's just naturally who I am. I just find that, I don't know, I feel like I learn more, right? But when it's my turn to get on stage, that is my voice, my movement, my arm placement, my facial expressions, whether it's joy or whatever, that's the part of me that's trying to get out. That's the part that's speaking. And so when we talk about social advocacy and, you know, where we are able to express what we feel and what we're going through as a people, as a community, neighborhood, whatever have you, it becomes very important to always have that element kind of stream through, because it affects you. And when I say it's my outlet and it's my voice, then I have to be speaking about something that is a part of me, right, or that affects me or that influences me. And so socially, I think that it's almost in my eyes anyway, it's almost impossible for me to create dance or create movement or anything like that that doesn't do that, right? That doesn't carry that undertone or that note that kind of, you know, resonate with the things that you may be, you know, experiencing or going through, things like that. And for me, when I teach my children, because I teach community classes, so I got teenagers. Whew. But they're in the height of what the social aspect is and the development and the understanding and the who I am and my place and who they are and their place. Where do we mix? Where do we cross? Where do we separate? Where are their lines? What is important for me? What does it mean to be socially responsible? What does it mean to be a productive citizen of my community? What does it mean, or how do I know or see the people who are giving back and that are showing back up in the community and somehow fighting for some rights that I'm like barely even aware of, right? What does that mean? And so what I try to do is I use dance as the vehicle for that. We speak and we understand those things, and we allow that to be our conversation as we, you know, get ready to prepare for dance, to move through dance and to do dance. So I don't know, I got long-winded, sorry. Yes, so that's what I think.
Social development.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, for the young people, but also having a voice through your movement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Seth, would you like to share?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like art is important in life and society. For us, it's dance, you know. For others, it's other things. I just feel like art is important to develop, so like socially in life. It's important for children to experience art. Unfortunately, some families, some neighborhoods, some children can't experience that. And it's sad because you never know, like, that diamond in the rough that you might find or never find because they don't have that advantage of taking dance. For me, it's ballet, because that's what we do at CDT, at Columbus Dance Theatre, ballet and contemporary. And I have had kids that we've come across who come from low-income families or don't have any money, and we've strived to give them everything that they need to succeed in our field. And so I feel like that's one of my missions and goals is to like give what we have to people who can't afford it, because like you never know. like that story about Misty Copeland, for instance, where she took a class at Boys and Girls Club and now she's famous, you know. And like I said, I keep thinking about this one boy that we have who now he's gone again because that street kind of life keeps pulling him, but like we keep pulling him, like he's so talented, like, you know, dance would save his life, you know. And so for some people, they never get to experience that. And one of our goals this year is to go out to more schools in the community and also invite more schools in the communities around Ohio to our space for free productions that we're gonna put on. We'll have more info out there about that as time goes along.
So I hear you saying that exposure to the arts is very important for the development of young people, and also as dancers in particular, that exposures, we study in one technique or in two, but when we're exposed to other ones, then we can find the beauty in the connecting, and also in finding out that the dancer can be a well-rounded dancer.
Yes.
Inside of that. Would you like to share with that, Susan?
The social advocacy
Yes.
part. So in terms of social advocacy, I have a rare opportunity as chair of the OSU Department of Dance and to work along with students and faculty to make some changes. So the university has been a site where white, male, European perspectives, legacies, and histories have prevailed, and that has to change, and it is changing. So it is changing in our department, and we have Susan teaching in our department. We, as very typical of modern dance departments, modern and contemporary dance is required, and ballet dance is required. That is changing at The Ohio State University. So we have Kevin Seals and DJ Crate Digga playing music. Susan has created a work for our Brazil tour group. We are producing Thiossane in September. Be there at the Barnett Theater. So it's an opportunity as a leader to change the story. We have a new faculty member who's sitting here, Dr. Naya McCarthy-Brown, and the title of her position is Community Engagement Through Art Making. So when you put your money where your mouth is, change can happen.
Great. Great, great. If you have any questions up to this point, you can come to the mic, ask your question. Make sure you speak into the mic because this is being recorded.
I'd just like to ask, do you ever offer scholarships for those that can't afford to take dance classes?
Yes, we do. We have a No Child Left Behind policy, so we look at the income, and it's basically if you make $20,000 or less, then it's free. When it goes up, then it's on a sliding scale. But we have a no child turn away policy, and we're very lenient on that. So.
Okay, how often do you put out flyers to in neighborhoods for the children to know that they can attend?
In the past, we have not. But that's part of our mission this year going forward, why we're gonna be contacting different schools in the communities and getting the word out there and trying to bring kids into our space.
Okay, I think that would be a very, very good idea.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And
Thank
then
you.
to add to that, Thiossane West African Dance Institute is a resident arts group of the Lincoln Theater. And they'll be celebrating their 20th anniversary next year. And so their community classes have been at the same rate for the last 20 years to make sure that it is affordable for families to come. and 3 8-week sessions throughout the year. And so, yes, we have all the multimedia and social and mailings that we have to let the community know where we are.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question?
Outside of my official position being here, I've known Seth for a while, and I have a question for you, man. A few years ago, you did a piece.
Can you speak into the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was talking to it. I have had the pleasure of knowing Seth for the last 8, 9, 10 years, and you did a piece a few years ago called Courage that speaks to the social justice piece of it. And there was an incident that occurred around it. I don't know if you want to share any of that, but you had some experience in the social justice arena. So if you could kind of take a short, concise, brief minute of it and just explain what happened.
Courage was choreographed by our previous director, and it dealt with racism in society, and it stemmed from an incident that happened between me and the police outside of our dance company. It's over on Main by Parsons, so it's kind of a sketchy neighborhood. And one night we had a show, and there were never street lights on that block, so I was coming out with a few of the other dancers, and one of them got their car broken into, and they like ran inside to go call the cops, but I was about to leave, and I had my phone out, and this was a few years ago, so phones were a little bigger then, you know, and a cop like just came up on me with no lights on or anything and had his gun out on me, and he was shaking like nervously, so I got nervous. I'm like, he's shaking, he might shoot me or think that my phone is a gun or something. So I drove away, and then they stopped me and then beat me up and everything. Oh, wow. And then said that, well, when they brought me to the precinct, they were like, where's the gun? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh, you fit the description, why did you run? I'm like, because you were pointing a gun at me and you looked like you were gonna shoot me. So, wow. Yeah, and then this turned into Courage, which dealt with injustices in society and descriptions and how we fit the description. And this happened, like, I'm from New York, so right before I came here, like, this had been going on for a long time, like cops shooting people. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Sean Bell. I know that's a long time ago, but that was in my neighborhood. And so I came here, like, with that stuff on my mind. And, you know, I don't regret it because look at now what's going on. And this was like 9 years ago. So I'd run again.
So again, using the medium of dance to share and to create and address. I think our pioneers did the same, of course, with Katherine Dunham and Pearl Premise, as they were creating their kind of own style and own technique, and showing the beauty of black dance. And some of our scholars have written books about the importance of the African diaspora in dance and why it's important to be a part of a pedagogy, why it's important to be a part of curriculum. And so for that statement, I asked you, how does the African diaspora resonate when you're creating, when you are changing departments, when you are addressing issues, when you are welcoming people of all color to the dance floor. So what part of that is in the African diaspora resonates most with you and what you're doing?
I think every dance language has its own idea of what the beautiful body is. Every contemporary choreographer recasts that determines what movement is fascinating or evokes what they're trying to do. We see this with Dunham. She drew from ballet, she drew from modern dance, she drew from Haitian, Jamaican forms. She drew from everything, and she created something out of that. At the heart of that's what I think we want the American experience to be in all kinds of ways, but certainly in our bodies and in our movement. So I think Pearl did that. I think Alvin Ailey did that. And, you know, he was equal parts jazz, ballet, and modern initially. But when Ron Brown came to that company, those guys started to do unbelievable repertoire that really came from Ron's time studying in a couple of West African countries, particularly Senegal. And most recently, the Ailey Company just premiered a work called Lazarus that is by Rennie Harris. So Rennie Harris has been working in Philly and all over the country and the world for 20 years, bringing street dance and hip hop, mixing it with theater to make this incredible sort of new form. And now Ailey dancers have to have the ability to speak the hip hop language. I hear it's an incredible work, Lazarus. And so, again, to me, this, bring them on. I think they're important for us on a body level to embody our histories in the Americas. What are these embodied legacies and histories? And they're very important in our creative process because every new contemporary artist reinvents the wheel in their own imagination, through their own identity, drawing on everything that is, in the broadest sense, American, and all of our legacies.
Great, thank you. And share how the African diaspora has resonated with your work, your choreography. Ladies first.
Okay. For me, when we speak about that, I mean, that is, part of that is, again, my roots is where I come from. So traditional West African dance is literally the first art form of dance that I studied, outside of watching music videos and moving furniture around in my mom's living room and mimicking what I see. So, when we speak about just the, I guess where that resonates with me, for me, it's really about being able to represent my ancestors. As I got older, there was a certain type of pride and joy that I kind of found in being able to do West African dance and to have the opportunity to not only just express it, but when you talk about doing at least West African dance, in particular African dance, essentially, we talk about getting to know those people who did that dance. So when it comes along, it just come along with movement. It comes along with the understanding of the language that they spoke, the people, and what they did on a day-to-day basis, and what they saw as important, and just those type of characteristics around them allow me to feel like I got to know a little bit more about those who stayed on the continent, those who did not come over, and my relationship with them and my understanding of what that is. And then also just giving me an opportunity to think and say to those who did come over, who continued to stay in the practice and hold on to the things that made them feel like they were at home. So carrying on the tradition of singing the songs or doing the dances. And as though those dances have changed and influenced all of the other dances that we know, a lot of times with black bottom and jazz and things like that, tap even, when we pull from some southern parts and things like that of Africa. It allows me to just really feel a true connection with who I am, and it allows me to be very proud of that and have a place to kind of identify with. So So studying dances of the African diaspora, if you will, and being a part of it, it has influenced just my dance, my work, and the things that really just are important to me, which is just getting to, again, be able to pridefully display to all the others a piece of me and a part of me that is true. And yeah, so I really, like, one of the most fun things I can probably think about with dance is I took a Katherine Dunham dance class in 2001, I think that was. I used to go to Black College Dance Exchange every year while I was at Norfolk State. Inez Howard would not let you not go. Anyway, and so we were allowed to take a dance class. Well, not we, you were selected. Basically, each school got to pick a couple of students to be able to take the class. And then the class was like not a normal class. Like everybody else who didn't get picked sat and watched the people on the floor who did get picked to go. And Miss Howard, knowing that I studied West African dance, that was my roots, right, that my base, she put the weight on my shoulders. She picked me, and I was a freshman. And she had like all these other dancers who have been dancing with her forever. And she's like, get out there. I'm like, what in the world? And I got nervous, and I was, you know, right, you want to mess this up, it's Katherine Dunham, oh my gosh, right? And she was, and she was there, honey, in that chair. She wasn't moving, but she was going to tell you if you was moving or not. And, and so I felt that weight and that pressure, but the music kicked up, and the movement came across, and it was, it was everything that I knew, that I remembered, and I found a place in a space to be excited and be able to show what I know, because I'd studied, I'd done it, right? And I just had a great time, I just let go and was in the class having a great time, and she sent her dancer over to tap me on the shoulder to tell me that I did a good job. And I knew I made somebody proud, so yeah, it's my claim to fame. I was tapped.
Seth, you want to share?
Well, okay. Growing up, when I was going to Bernice Johnson's, it was like a history lesson all the time. So, you know, I was studying tap, and that was a lesson on how, you know, when the slaves came over, they'd be on the ship making different sounds and rhythms to keep themselves occupied and in shape and moving their legs. So, you know, that interested me, and everything was just like a history lessons. We used to have teachers like every month go to Africa and with drummers and learn new dances and rhythms and come back and teach it to us and give us a whole rundown of what everything was. And every dance form was like that, you know. And then as I got older, going to DTH and Ailey, and you know, incorporating those things, like dance evolves, and like I said before, what you learn in dance, you can apply it to other dance forms. So when I first came to Columbus and I was at CDT, I know y'all all know that feeling of feeling out of place when you're the only person like in the room of like your nationality or whatever, you know. And it really didn't affect me like that in New York because it was, you know, more diverse and mixed. And at Ailey, it was a mix of everybody. At DTH, it was, you know, African American and, you know, people of color. And then coming here, like being the only person of color, it makes you feel like y'all know that feeling I'm talking about. But then when you have all of the knowledge that you have and the different ways of moving and everybody else doesn't, you feel like you can give more and show more and help more and help lead the way. And I feel like, you know, the African diaspora, or even like blood memories, you know, take you a long way and help you excel.
I have a question about presenting work on a proscenium stage, Dances of the African Diaspora, and I know all of you have had some kind of experience with that. In recent years, I've become more and more conflicted about sharing dances of the diaspora within a Western context, and thinking about, like, is this serving the form and is it serving the audience? I'm just curious what your thoughts are on those things.
For me, being, again, you know, what I specialize in, if you will, there's a thought, like I used to do. So I used to tell people when I was in high school, you know, they always be like, what do you do? I do African dance. And I don't know, either age or time or, you know, back then, whatever you want to call it, that was very uncommon. They're like, you do what? And I'm like, I do African dance. And they would say, you know, oh, I want you to come, you know, why don't you do African dance at school? You should perform. You should get in a talent show. And I was very hesitant, and I didn't want to, because I used to tell them I would be offended by how they would respond. And I don't know, I kind of prejudged them, I guess, to think that they wouldn't understand. But I was just like, no, because you like hop around and do like some Native American dance, and then I have to tell you that that's not what I'm doing. And then I'll be mad, and then you'll be mad because you were just trying to be helpful. And I just, you know, I don't want to do that to our friendship kind of deal. But I literally was my response to them, because I was so hesitant about putting it on the stage, and how do I make sure that they understand the context of what I'm doing and what it comes from and how it's supposed to translate, or even just kind of see if I can preset the stage so that they're in a place that they can truly just enjoy it, or just simply view it as art, and then let it be that, and not immediately try to let their Western mind show up and say, you know, oh, what the heck is that? That's not dance. Because even though they don't dance, clearly ballet and modern is all there is. And so they would, you know what I mean, like it just immediately write it off, or not take it in, because they don't see it as a dance form. It doesn't look like it's what they know, right? It doesn't look like what they watched on TV. It doesn't look like, again, like your regular ballet or modern type of dance. And so it becomes, I don't know, for me, I kind of reserved for quite some time, because I had a issue with that, or a problem with that. And I think for me, I just kind of started to realize that that it's not my job to necessarily go preset the stage for everybody, right? But my dance is my calling, and it's what I need to do. It's what I need to get out. And so when I do present it, I try to make sure that I'm presenting what I believe to be its most truest, authentic form, and that I'm setting the stage as far as what I'm dancing on as much as I can, so that the Western eye, if you will, right, if that's what they're going to look at my performance with, is able to still take in the beauty of it, or whatever that might be.
And then just on my journey to where I am now, in the beginning of that call, I knew I wanted to use African dance as a vehicle for social and personal development of young people, but I wasn't as astute as I was now. So I went to travel, and to both here and locally, nationally, internationally, because I wanted to say, if I was going to be that mentor and that teacher of West African culture, dance and music, that I wanted to be very authentic. And so I immersed myself in that. And then I also brought particular folks from West Africa to the children here. And so then I got very territorial about the style of dance, and I got very protective about it, because I didn't want it to be watered down, and I wanted it to be authentic, and I wanted to be as close to the technique as possible. But then as I began to go into schools to present this, then I realized that it was an educational piece. The dance, the music was educational, and that dance was a universal language as is music, and that it doesn't matter if what the audience looks like, if it's gender specific, if it's age, if it's generational, it's going to resonate. And so I began to develop that educational piece for all audiences as I began to take the young people out to perform. And I would tell them that you were the teachers and they are the students. And so they were able to make sure that they were very clean in their delivery and their performance, and making sure that they were smart dancers. And so if people came up to talk to them about their dance form, then they would be able to speak about it and speak confidently about it. So that's where my protection kind of began to grow. And I was able to move it into different arenas. Now that we're in a performing company, when we're on stage, it's all about the education and using that universal language to encompasses all people inside of that.
Can I say? Sure. You know, I think we saw particularly with Katherine Dunham, going to Haiti and bringing Vodun and bringing some of the religious dances back and putting them on proscenium stages. So this isn't just taking them out of, say, a practiced village context. It's also taking them out of a religious context and putting them on stage. And she got slammed for that by certain people in the community, that it was sacrilegious to bring the Orisha religion. You know, so she was dealing with this as well. So my feeling about this is, I think we deal with it with more than just West African forms. For example, Živali, a company here that did the dances of the Southern Slavic nations, you know, went to Croatia and Macedonia and learned dances and brought them back. The dances that were originally done by everybody, not just company members, and in village settings, now they're on stages all over the Midwest. We're struggling with this, but I think it's only when we posit it as it has to be as an either or. Either you put them on stage or you leave them in their villages, or you leave them in their religious contexts, or you put them on Broadway. But it seems to me, if we could think that all those spaces are okay, but they're all different, and they all require a different context, a different presentational form, then why are we picking one or the other? They happen at the shopping mall, in the park, during a festival, in the round, in a proscenium. So that's the way I've come to be thinking about that, as opposed to they should never be here. Why shouldn't they be everywhere? Sort of a mentality about that.
Okay. So there's another question for you. I'm glad you said that. Segue into there. Just as your position as chair, what was your aha moment, your experience that you decided that the change in the department would come through hiring people of color and understanding the importance of West African dance experience, exposure, and training into the department?
Well, I mean, I was more predominantly jazz and tap trained than anything. Mm-hmm. So if we're really talking about a first language, for me, they're in dance forms of the African diaspora and social dance forms. So we know that any social dance form in this country comes from somewhere in Africa first, basically, right? So anybody grew up in the 60s doing the shag and the twist, you already know that that's in your body. That's your body memory in terms of popular dance. I would say it wasn't an aha moment for me only. I think it was an aha moment for our faculty and students together. And it's super, super hard to get a tenure track faculty position like once every 6 years. So it's slow in going, and how we're managing that is to bring you and people from the community, and when we bring visiting artists in the fall, to make sure that they are coming in to complement and supplement and help us grow. I think this aha moment has come is coming to the university slowly, but it's part of a whole cultural aha that I think that our faculty understood and realized 10, 15 years ago, and has been slowly making its way.
Well, we want to applaud you on that effort.
Well,
thank you. Just for another question for Kiana and Seth. Kiana, I know that when you were young, about 14, that you had the opportunity to travel to Africa. How did that experience change your life?
Are we speaking socially or no? Just playing. So, absolutely correct. So, I was given an opportunity to travel to Africa and in my teen years, and I think when she says saved my life because she knows, because it literally saved my life. Without it, I'm not really sure what track I might have ended up on. I mean, I have been doing African dance since I was 7, so it wasn't like, oh, I need a dance, you know, kind of to come pull me back in per se, because I was doing it. But I think that's why it's so important for what I do now, because I definitely remember I lost my mind when I was a teenager. I don't know how familiar you guys are with that or how much you want to admit to or not, but I think we all temporarily for a split second kind of lose it. And so I had done that, but to me it wasn't that bad because, you know, I wasn't like out doing drugs or anything like that, but I did what I now know to be probably one of the worst kinds. I didn't speak, I didn't have a voice, right? And it's different than now being older and being quiet, it's because I choose to. But back then I was just following, you know, it's like, hey, you want to go here? Okay, I don't care. You want to do this? Oh, okay, I don't care. Okay, I don't care to pretty much everything. And it landed me in some spaces and some places that I knew better and I didn't need to be in, but I went anyway. And so with that, I think that, you know, I don't know. I clearly wasn't on this track. And so I was able to go to Africa and do 2 weeks there. And it was just absolutely amazing to me. All of the biggest things to me, to be honest, was the unspoken things. It wasn't that, you know, some old wise man in the village set me down and said, child. Right, you must find your place in the world. Like, that did not happen. But all of the unspoken things that happened, just the natural movement, the kids and their understanding of their place and what they should be doing and not be doing, with the whole seen and not heard, when to, you know, arrive for dinner, to prepare for dinner, to get up without being asked or spoken to, and move your stuff over here and put their stuff over there. Now I know the adults are going this way, the kids are going to go this way. Like, nobody said any of these rules and regulations, yet life just was able to just maintain, and it was an easy transition, and it was smooth, and there wasn't, not to say that kids in Africa don't get in trouble, but just saying like those unspoken kind of things that they did, which I don't know, just by watching them allowed me to see that they understood that it was those certain rules and regulations, it was those certain unspoken things that they needed to get done that allowed them to be able to move into the next level of life, right? To be able to understand my next place, to understand how to be a teenager, I need to understand how to be a child. To understand how to be an adult, I need to understand how to be a young adult type of thing. And I don't know, it just woke me up. I just was really moved by it. And then to take dance to the next level, because I was able to take classes over at the National Ballet of Senegal with some of the former members of their company, and for them again to say, oh my gosh, you're from America, you dance so well, you do so, you know, you're amazing. I'm like, me? What? So it was kind of all of that that allowed me to really kind of find my place and understand what dance was for me, and to understand that, yeah, if I didn't make some changes when I got home, this wouldn't be possible. I'm not going to get trips to Africa. I'm not going to get praise for doing what clearly I need to be doing, because my passion and my joy just falls out of me while I'm doing it, right? I don't get those things. And so it became almost a life or death choice, and not literally per se, but like if I'm not able to do this, I'm going to die, right, in the inside. And so, yeah.
I've been reading a book called Browning Pleasantville. It's by Kimberly somebody. I can't remember her last name. What is it?
Braswell.
Okay, yeah. And what was it? I want to give her, what is it again? Kimberly Braswell. But she has there's a line in that book that says, you know, the first brown person to get through the door is one thing, but it's like when you get to that 4th, 5th, 6th brown person getting through the door, where they become a human that's, you know, this baseball player or this golfer or this something. I would like to know if you all have seen any tangible the door opening for people of color, for just like something that you hadn't seen before, a space where like that people become human, and it's not about whether they're brown, white, whatever.
Well, I'll tell you something. Ohio State, I think there's just under 6% of students at Ohio State are African American. So, okay, so that's, you know, that's not like the door opening. Okay, so I had this thing with the dean. I have slightly over 20% of my students are kids of color. And he said to me in this review in front of the provost, that's the highest percentage of any program in arts and humanities. And I said, but still, when you walk into the classroom of 20 people, you're only one of 5 people of color in the classroom. It still feels, well, I don't know what it feels like, but I can't imagine it feels great. So, you know, so my percentage is 4 times higher than other departments, but that's, you know what I'm saying? The lived experience of being, you know, one of 5 students in a class of 25 kids. So I don't think it's not like the floodgates are opening here.
Yeah, I guess for to kind of say it for what I see, and again coming specifically from a place of African dance and pushing a door, I honestly don't know. I don't know if it's become a full human, as in the way that you've described it just yet, but I do want to say and just speak on just like somebody like Susan, who to me is one of those people who are pushing the door open, especially for what we're trying to do here in Columbus and bringing forth the traditional West African dance. And if to just put an eye on it, I guess, in real terms, Susan started this back in like 1992 or something, right? And then from that original group of children that kind of came through, myself, my brother, and a few others, myself, doing the work that I'm doing now and being able to continue that on with African dance in the community, giving back and being able to have spaces and opportunity to stage my work. And then also there's another young lady, Sarita, who goes by Dehati. Dehati danced with me side by side. She now has her own traditional West African dance company, Gore, that she is artistic director of. And then with that, and inside of that, there, with me and then being under Thiossane, there are maybe like 3 or 4 more of us who started in the program, and that's coming up, and we're branching out in our own ways. Like Kevin Seals, who, you know, does his drumming, and now he's doing it a little bit more outside of just, you know, African dance class or practice. He's performing out in the community. So I feel like, again, same thing she's saying when I look at it with those eyes or in that perspective. I don't know if it's a full human yet, but I do feel like I am witnessing some of those people try to push it through the door, if that helps to answer that question, I guess.
In terms of where I'm at, Columbus Dance Theater, well, like I said, growing up in New York, I was never the only person of color, like, in the dance room. You know, it wasn't until I came out here that I witnessed that. So in the company, we do have other people of color in the school. It's very minimal. It's like 5 to 100, you know, but our doors are open. You just gotta walk through them, you know, just like I did here.
Yes.
So.
And I just believe that when we are in positions to push the door open, hold the door open, prop it open, take it off the hinges so that people can come through and people can come into that space for whatever reason they need to come to the space. So we have dance classes here for adults. They're not looking to be prima donnas. They're not looking to be the best African dancer. They're not looking to be in academia. They just want to come and move, come and dance, come and socialize, fellowship, and just, you know, have fun inside the movement. So there's multiple ways of opening those doors, because we know when we come to a space of creativity, then those boundaries kind of leave for that moment. Any other questions?
Coming from an actual, like, collegiate member of Ohio State dance department, we definitely are right now, like, opening and, you know, inserting, like, African diaspora and its cultural context in our curriculum, but it is it's a choice in the matter. You know, you pick whether you want to not take a semester of ballet and actually take an African class or a Latinx contemporary class. And I guess what I'm toggling with right now is noticing how a lot of my, or not a lot, but some of my white peers kind of see African diaspora and its movement as a stylistic choice, and not what I've come to discover that it's really been fundamental in, like, my Western understanding of dance, and it's as embedded in the foundation work as contemporary and ballet is too. So my question is just, you know, what can members of color, members who are in proud support of African diaspora and dance, how can we reach to our white counterparts and actually not even explain, but display the equal importance and foundation that we have in our other forms of dance?
I think we require it, is how we do that, Melody. And I think we're in the process of having that very discussion. How does it move from a choice that a lot of students aren't making because they didn't grow up thinking it was valuable, to coming into a program where it's required?
Okay, I'm going to put an OSU student on the spot here. So one of my students that's in my class, I'm going to come forward, and I would like for you to share how the African diaspora, the dance that we're doing, has encouraged or made you have some influence or find some relationship to the other dance forms. Thank you.
I'm Jackie. I'm in Miss Susan's class. Melody's short. I would say that I'm realizing that it's crucial. And I come from a super ballet background. I thought I was going to be a ballerina when I grew up, and I'm not. And so when you're in contemporary dance classes, everyone tells you that you need to use, you know, drop your weight and into the floor. And there's one way of doing that, and then this semester, a little bit last semester, but this semester I'm really realizing that there's a lot of different ways that you can go down, or you can move, like, I didn't know you could move your torso. And so that's, like, I'm realizing that, like, watching my peers from Ballet Met dance, I'm realizing, like, they're not moving, they're just waving their arms around, and, like, I'm trying to figure out how to, like, get the rest of my body moving so that I feel like I'm actually dancing, not just waving around.
Yeah.
It's been delightful to be in your class, by the way. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for sharing. So at this time, we'll have Tapestry come down. We're going to close out this conversation. We want to thank all of you for being a part of the conversation. Of course, Susan Hadley, OSU Chair in the Dance Department, Seth Wilson, Artistic Director at Columbus Dance Theater, and Kiana Simpson, Principal Dancer and local choreographer for that.
Thank you so much, Susan. So I also am a social choreographer. I believe that my calling, my duty is to move people beyond the lights. So when people ask me what my personal quote is, it is beyond the lights. That means whatever happens on stage, by the time you leave, we should leave you with something, not just beautiful movement, but it should be something that makes you feel something or moves you into action. Our first piece was about self-esteem. I'm very much into what affects our community. And those are things that do self-esteem, and this piece is called Grounded. We all may be grounded in different types of dance, whether it's ballet, whether it's jazz, whether it's African. I started African when I was 6 as well, so I understand that. But dance is the one thing that is universal, that connects all of us. So some of the dancers have been grounded with African, some have been grounded in ballet. But together, that's what dance does. It keeps us grounded, but together. Thank you.
So I hope that you have enjoyed the conversation. Feel free to have a conversation with the panelists, our performers, and myself. Again, thank you and good night.